at the time I was telling my JAG, like, hey, this dude's like being weird and uncomfortable. Like, can I do anything for my safety kind of thing? And like the JAG was just kind of like, you can tell people about it. And like I did. And like, so I go to Captain's Mast. My JAG tells the CO that like, hey, she might have a stalker like kind of thing while doing my sentencing. So I get bumped from E3 back down to E1. And then I got a suspended 6-month restriction. So it was kind of like, don't fuck up in these 6 months or you're going on restriction, which like I was kind of thankful for, but also like post Captain's Mast. And I don't know if you ever felt this, but like you're like automatically the piece of shit in whatever equation.
Yep.
Like,
Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast of military and veterans who refuse to be silenced. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, provide value and solutions, and to change the culture when it comes to mental health within the DoD organizations. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of Your Story Doesn't End Here. Today's guest is Hannah Gray. She used to fix airplanes for the Navy, which she said has its own ups and downs. She said she did not have the most pleasant experience in the Navy, so leaned into stand-up comedy as a way to process all the acronyms that she left the Navy with, like TBI and the old PTSD. She also works through her own comedy through her own podcast called Scarlet Begonia Spacecast, which is 100% still a work in progress. She also has a partial profit tie-dye store called Grateful Lot Lady Designs, where a good majority of the profits get donated back into veteran-based nonprofit charities to help give back to a community that gets recognition, but not enough. And she thinks that 22 veterans a day is 22 too many, and she is tired of losing her friends. I 100% agree with that, Hannah, and I appreciate you for being on the show today.
fuck yeah. I appreciate being here. Yeah, where to even begin? Let's see. Well, me and you were at our first duty station together, so that's cool.
Yeah, I remember checking in together. I have this memory that pops up in my Facebook every year of us in like what's it called? Indoc.
Yeah.
I'm like, wild. It seems like a lifetime ago, but I know you have such an incredible story. And I remember hearing bits and pieces of it when you're still where I am at now. And goodness, so much has happened. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know where to bring into it. No.
Start wherever.
It was cool with it's kind of all over the place, but whatever. I found out
my brain works that way too. So do your thing.
I found out my picture was used in the I Am Vanessa Guillen movie for like a split second this week, which I was like, couldn't you like tell me, motherfucker, before? But like, putting your picture up on social media, you don't really like own it anymore, but whatever. So that was cool. How do I put it? So I was sexually assaulted not once, but twice in the military, which like pretty fucking common after hearing everyone's story. And like the thing that kind of sucked was like the first time I was able to like get away from it all, because I got to get deployed to Japan at the time. So I got away from the situation. So I didn't have to like think about it. But then I got back and I started thinking about it, and I was trying to do stuff to like cover my own ass in the military, and it was not received very well. I don't know. You were there for some of it. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember bits and pieces, but if you are comfortable sharing, I think that I think it'd be important to tell people what happens, because it really can become a like me against you, what he said, she said, when it comes to things like that in the military. And it sometimes just becomes all about like, who do you know? Who are you friends with? Who are we going to believe based off of what we feel like is the truth, right? Like, and I feel like that's how it was from what I know about your story, but if you want to share.
Yeah, no, so I went through the whole process of like, I was a SAPR victim at the time, which for those who don't know is Sexual Assault Prevention Response something advocate. I don't know. And so I was like very aware of the process and familiar with everything you had to do. And I think I was probably a month or two out of the training for that. And then I had my first assault, which was one of those, like, I'm pretty sure he drugged me and I just kind of woke up the next day, which, like, weird fucking thing to do when you gotta like work the next day and like pretend like nothing happened, more or less. And like I did try that for a while, but I had disclosed a hypothetical question to a friend that I think you actually worked with, and he kind of reported it to the base victim advocate the next day, which was like, at first I was kind of upset because I'm like, fuck you, it's my story. But then like it was one of those trying to see it objectively, like he was just trying to be a good friend. But it was still kind of like a I don't want to talk about it, motherfucker kind of thing, which like wasn't the greatest, but what did I do? Okay, sorry, trying to get the mental checklist in the head of like what happened. But so I go through the due process of like everything the military teaches you about sexual assault. So like report to the base CO kind of thing, and like go get a rape kit, which was like fucking weird to do already because I'm like a week after everything. So I'm like, I don't think you're gonna find anything, but like, okay. And like, so I go through all that process and like NCIS, which I had higher expectations seeing the show before actually seeing actual NCIS, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and you meet NCIS when you're going through like the SAPR VA training, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So like I was very aware of who they were. So
Yeah.
I was like trying to be like, hey, I would appreciate it if you respected my boundaries and like did this in a time where people aren't going to connect the dots back to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I would like my business to remain my business, but
and it's supposed to, I think, but I think that
theory.
it's such a small world in
Yeah.
the commands and in the military that like people connect the dots. And I think that's where one of the issues where people have with reporting their sexual assaults.
Yeah. No, that's honestly, that was my biggest concern and why I didn't want to at first. So it was one of those like, I would like my own business. And well, NCIS comes to get their investigation stuff going, and they come like directly when all of the squadrons are out of work, and like FRC, like everywhere there, it was just everyone was coming through. There was a big briefcase, and I'm just like, could I just like crawl into a hole and die, please? Because I would much rather just go sit in my car and fuck off instead of like watching.
And you're the victim in this sexual assault, right? So like there should be some kind of privacy to respect you and not re-traumatize you, I would think.
Yeah, no, there is. And they talk about it in like SOPR training, but I don't know if it's just like NCIS dude equals no empathy, or like, I don't know how it gets. I want to say they're good people, but I'm also like, you disrespected all of these boundaries I tried to set up to even feel comfortable to even talk about anything with you. And
right.
It was just one of those like, do I even want to open up more to you people? Because
because you felt like you were being like attacked in some way, or how did that make you feel, I guess, to not sound like a therapist, I guess.
Yeah, no. It like kind of attacked, more like ostracized, like kind of like, this is this girl, this happened right here, blah blah blah. We're not gonna mention who, but like you do see one random bitch standing in the corner just hoping that like,
yeah, well, and now people start asking questions because it's like, oh yeah, I know.
And
how
that's exactly what happened. And I'm just like, I don't. They told me to lie to everyone more or less and say that something got stolen from my room. And I'm like, besides my decency, I don't know. Like, maybe that's a bad joke, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, and to have to keep track of like a lie on top of what you're already dealing with, and knowing that your brain's going through trauma and things, and you didn't decide to report the sexual assault. Someone else took that choice away from you. And I know in the military, they say all the time, like, oh, be careful who you talk to about your unrestricted information because anyone could report. But it's like, at what point can I trust a friend to just talk about something so I can get through it, So
Exactly. And I don't even think I was like that direct with him. I was more or less like, hey, if this happened to your girlfriend, what would you do? Because like guy perspective, I was spiraling in my own female brain. So I'm like, all these things are wrong. What am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. The circle just like went really fast, really quickly because I had gotten chosen to leave for deployment at the time. So I was like, okay, cool. This happened and it sucks, but like, just get me the fuck out of here. Like, closest thing to an expedited transfer without like expeditingly transferring me the fuck
right, right. So what ended up happening with that case?
Yeah, so the case was like more or less unfounded. They said it was a he said, she said thing, only because that's the thing that really made my blood boil was that they said if I had gone directly to like the hospital after the assault and everything, that like it would have been a little bit different. And I'm like, please don't tell me that. Like, I'm just trying to like grip onto whatever part of reality I can still hold on to. And I think at the time I was more or less spiraling like everyone's gonna know. What are they gonna think? Oh no, I'm just another statistic in the fucking military, which I was not wanting to be like adamant about. But it actually turned out because the command was concerned about my mental health that they told the command triad I was deployed with. So like some first class and like a senior chief who is not really an empathetic guy, like nice guy, but empathy is not his strong suit and he knows who he is. So I get back from deployment and like I tried to do some of like helping NCIS out by like picking them out of a photo lineup when I'm over there. So like it was weird scrolling on an iPad, like, is it this person? Is it this person? And then his fucking face appears and I didn't want to drop the iPad. It just like happened at the time. And it was one of those like, I need to get the fuck away from this place right now because I don't want to look at this man. Like,
so you were deployed and they were still working on the case while you're deployed. Okay.
Yeah. So they're still working on the case. I'm just not really being optimistic about anything because I'm like, I just want to compartmentalize it, put in a box and move the fuck on. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I think that there's so many things in the military, like looking back, even on my own experience, that like when something major happens, there's such a quote unquote uproar in commands that like the biggest concern isn't like me and taking care of me. The biggest concern is, oh my gosh, what is everyone going to think? Like even pregnancy, like I got pregnant when I was in the military and I was getting out and I couldn't be excited about my pregnancy because I was like, oh, what's everyone going to think? And like, anytime anything had happened to me in the military, it was like, oh, I can't let people know because I don't want people to talk. Like you're not thinking about you and making sure you're okay. You're thinking about like, I don't want this to turn into something bigger because I know I have no privacy. Like I know that my story is not my story. It's going to turn into everyone else's interpretation of the story. So like, yeah, I think it's very hard to be in a place where you can focus on yourself and your healing.
Yeah.
When you know that it's always going to be like, what's so-and-so think? How's so-and-so going to judge me now? How is my career going to be affected? How's my day-to-day work life going to be affected?
And it's like, now looking back at it, I'm like, so stupid. Like, not saying that like it wasn't at the time to me, but I'm like, fuck, I was just a number to him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, no, it was definitely disheartening. And so like, God, it sounds terrible, but like when round 2 happened, I was definitely more feet in the sand. Fuck you guys. I don't want to do anything. Like after my second assault, it took them a year and a half to get my rape kit from like the local hospital. And I'm like, you guys are supposed to be like best of the best or whatever the fuck government kind of shit. And just like.
So you didn't go on base, you went to the local hospital both times?
No, base, it was on base for the first time, and I went off base the second time because I can get more into that one too. But the second time I was found unconscious by my LPO and the barracks PO at the time, so they had to call 911. And so I got a fun ride down to, oh god, it begins with an A and it's right next to Oak Harbor.
Anacortes?
Yeah, that one. I'm like,
I know, I still live here.
But yeah, so I think it was just the thing that was annoying about my second assault, more or less, is that how do I put it? I got in trouble after my first one, and it was for like some paperwork thing or something of the sort. And they were trying to more or less, it was like a week or two before results came out for exams, and that I had already made it anyway from that. And I was getting like push buttoned or whatever at the time. Well, what did I try and do? God, I was blanking on what I even got in trouble for. Son of a bitch. Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
So I went to boot camp with someone that knew the guy that attacked me first time around. And I didn't dude was like a third class at the time. I didn't think I was in the same, I don't know. I for some reason think rank and age are like equivalent in the military. And I know
because they treat it like it is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so she sent me like a letter of accommodation or something like that. And I gave it to like my LPO at the time. And then like, apparently it was fake. And I tried to tell them this whole time, like, I didn't think it looked real. Like, it was just, what was it? I think she had spelled accommodation wrong, and she had like made a fake letter of accommodation so that I would use it and think I got advanced already. And then like,
I remember when this happened, because I thought it was just absolutely wild that this turned into such a big deal. So let's talk about this a little bit more.
Yes.
Because this story still blows my mind to this day. So someone came to you and they gave you a fake letter of commendation, which, for people that don't know, a letter of commendation is basically like you did a good job piece of paper. It's like a participation award, but it gives you a point on the advancement exam. So it's not quite to the level of like a Navy Marine Corps achievement medal or whatever that's called, NAM.
Like an attaboy, but like
but it gives you a point on the advancement exam. And so for some people it's a really big deal. So someone had drafted a fake letter.
Yeah, she was someone who I had like done this event with, and like she had said, like, we were on color guard in Pensacola together because I did not want to stand fucking duty at all. So we were both on the color guard team together, and she said like, oh man, what you get on your exams? And I was like, missed it by a point, blah blah blah, kind of thing, like better luck next time, whatever. And she had said, she was very persistent on well, remember we played this like, oh god, it was like a change of command ceremony for a commander that gave us a flock. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, sounds right. I was there. I don't really remember the like that part, but I was like a goody two shoes in Pensacola. So I'm like, sure, I probably did, whatever. And she emailed it to me. So I was thinking, oh yeah, sure. It came from a like Navy.mil email account. So I was like, yeah, it's, why would it, not really thinking anything would be wrong with it. And I did not look at it, did not read it all the way through. And I could have seen that commendation was spelled like commendation or something like that.
So you forwarded this letter on to someone, or?
Yeah, I printed it out and gave it to my LPO, like, yo, listen, here's my extra point. Can I be a third class and stay where I am right now? Like, what's going on? And turned out he gave that to the LT of my division. Yeah, that's the word. Okay, sorry, I had to think about that. And he was like, this is a fake, blah blah blah, write her up. And I just tried to go explain to them, like, this girl said I got it. I don't know what do you want me to do?
You showed them like the email threads and everything. You said, hey, this was sent to me from someone else.
Yeah.
I sincerely didn't know that this was a fake, and they just didn't listen.
Nope. They just were not having it. And I think they just like were so gun set on pushing the paperwork forward that it went to I can remember the acronym for a DRB, disciplinary review board. Yeah. And that was fun because I got to do my like best Navy whites and like be all Joe Navy, like, I know the Sailor's Creed, sure. And had a bunch of like old white men yell at me and say I'm a piece of shit, and my parents are like the worst people on the planet for raising such a terrible daughter.
Yeah,
like,
DRBs are odd to me because for people that don't know, it's supposed to be a fact-finding process, and it's supposed to be just chiefs in there finding facts, but it seems that it turns into this like shit show where people are berating you for things that have absolutely nothing to do with like why you're there. And like my DRB wasn't terrible because my DRB was in Pensacola, and it was right after the newest chiefs had just became chiefs. And so like I had the newbies doing my DRB, right? Yeah. So like they were already a little awkward as it was. So it wasn't that bad. Like I could tell she was really trying, like she was really, really trying to like be mean and stuff, but I just like, I just, it wasn't that bad for me, No,
I get that.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure when you're in a DRB with like seasoned chiefs who have been doing this for years and years, like I've heard stories of people that like say like the most off kilter shit in a DRB that has nothing to do with like, you're a piece of shit because of your mom. And it's like, what? Yeah. What's my mom have to do with this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, during a DRB, I don't think I had ever had so much self-restraint in my life, because I'm like, listen, Command Master Chief, if you said that to my motherfucking face out on the streets, not in uniform, it would
catch these hands, CMC.
Like, not saying I would fight an old man, but also like,
but
old man,
come at me the wrong way.
Exactly. No, I'm the type that like they could tell I am very protective about my family. So like they'd be like, your mom's a piece of shit. And I'd be like, my mom is an angel, you motherfucker. Like,
but like what does that have to do with fact finding? What does that have to do with like, because I get it, they think you're lying and they think if they can break you, like you'll tell the truth, right? But where does berating family have anything to do with, and who's teaching these chiefs their like,
dude,
their their interrogation skills?
I all I know is that like if they tried to be detectives, they would be fucking terrible at it. Like they'll just see one part of the equation and think, nope, that's the only part that matters. Like,
yeah,
the rest of the story. You know?
So what happened with DRB? Because I know usually, just to kind of explain the process to the listeners, DRB can lead to all the way up to a captain's mast. And somewhere in there, supposedly you can request a court martial. I've always told it's not advised, but then some people have told me it is advised. I don't really know to this day, but like DRB can lead to what, like OIC mast, XOI, all the way up to captain's mast. But did yours lead anywhere? Did it stop at DRB?
Oh no, mine went all the way up to mass. I was really hoping the XOI at the time, because she was a female and she was in the military for as long as she was, that she would like have an ounce of empathy or compassion. You know what I mean? Like, been right there with you.
But females in the Navy go one of two ways, right? Like they're either like completely against you or they are for you. Yeah, there is like no in between.
There really isn't. And I'm just like, dude, like you're a mom. Can you just like look at it from that? Like I felt like I tried to like beg and plead with everyone up the chain of command. Like, this is the reason my brain did this. Like, I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm not trying to do anything of the sorts.
And you were 100% okay with staying at your rank and being like a point away, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Cool. Better luck next time. And I had found out later I was going to get push buttoned anyway. So like, I wasn't really that, oh no, I don't have rank. Like,
yeah. So how did Captain's Mast go for you then?
Funny you say that. So night before my Captain's Mast, because I hadn't gotten like punished yet or anything, I could still go off base. My friend who I had disclosed to originally had said, like, we need to get you not thinking about this. So he took me to a party off base, which was cool. Wasn't bad. Needed to get my mind off stuff. I don't know if I'm just like too nice. That might be the issue. I took a young man that ended up being my second attacker kind of under my wing because I'm like, oh no, you're away from home. Like, you're young. That sucks. Like, let's be in the suck together, more or less. And I think he took me being nice to him as like flirting moves. And I tried to like shut that shit down with every possible way that I could. And he was not getting hints. And I got, 432. Yeah, 432 text messages the night of my Captain's Mast from this man. Like, I had so much fun hanging out with you. You're so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay, like anything after 20, get away from me. Like, I don't need.
So common though. Like,
yeah.
And it's what's sad to me is that it feels like you still feel like part of you has to justify like what happened with this guy. And it should never be like someone mistaken kindness for flirting or whatever. Like it should be like a straightforward, like, hey, listen, like we're always assuming friendship unless someone says something else, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's how it should be. And I think it's because the military environment is such a like close quarters environment. Like there's women living in barracks with men and we're working together all day, every day. We eat together. We sleep in the same building. You know, we see each other all hours of the day, especially when we're living on base. Like, you remember what it was like to live on base. Like, you don't get a break from these people. So yes, it can be very easy to feel like maybe she's hanging out with you because she likes you, but no, like,
Yeah,
maybe she's hanging out with you because she just needs a friend and didn't think that because you were a male and she's a female that you guys have something going on, like, you know. But it random thought, but I don't know, maybe this is why people think that so many women in the military are sluts, because women in the military just want friends to hang out with that happen to be guys in a male dominated fucking job field, like, you know.
Yeah, no, you were right there with it too. Like, how many times misconstrued actions got interpreted into ways where I'm like, first of all, you're not that cute, and second of all, like, I don't shit where I eat, dude. Like,
yeah,
I don't know that. I tried to at least have that kind of mentality, and it definitely like helped. But like, this kid took it to like a whole new level, as in like, I tell the legal counsel, the JAG. Oh, I'm remembering words. Sorry.
There's a lot, so I'm impressed.
But at the time, I was telling my JAG, like, hey, this dude's like being weird and uncomfortable. Like, can I do anything for my safety, kind of thing? And like, the JAG was just kind of like, you can tell people about it, and like, I did, and like, it was okay. And oh man, it had ended up like, so I go to Captain's Mast. My JAG tells the CO that like, hey, she might have a stalker, like, kind of thing while doing my sentencing. So I get bumped from E3 back down to E1. And then I got a suspended 6-month restriction. So it was kind of like, don't fuck up in these 6 months or you're going on restriction, which like, I was kind of thankful for, but also like post Captain's Mast. And I don't know if you ever felt this, but like, you're like automatically the piece of shit in whatever equation.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, but I went straight to restriction. So like for me, it was like it's kind of like, yeah, restriction, it sucks feeling like you're going there, but also it's kind of nice at the same time because like you and I was in a training command. So like my entire life was just restriction. I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to do anything but just be a restrictee for like 30
Yeah.
days. But you're around a group of people who like everyone fucked up in some way. So it's like, you know, you're kind of around your people.
Yeah.
It's like,
And like,
yeah.
like the company, don't get me wrong. I think I was just like, it's cool that you did that, but like he still works here. So like, what
Yeah.
can you do about that? Man, this is my fun Navy logic that always drives me insane is I asked for an expedited transfer and got one, and I got transferred 45 minutes south. And he ended up finding me down there. So I'm like, I don't think you guys are doing that good a job. I don't know. Like,
So they didn't move you to like the East Coast. They didn't move you to a different state. They kept you in the state that you were in, just moved you to a different base because it was probably the cheapest solution.
yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. And it was one of those like, oh, fun, I'm at a new base. Like, I'll make new friends. And then oh man, I think it was like a month or two after my expedited transfer and going to medical and stuff, they found out that I got a brain injury from my second. I don't think I talked about my second assault yet, now that you say that.
You said bits and pieces. So you said that you were
Okay.
found unconscious. You said that they did the sexual assault, the rape kit,
Mhm.
in Anacortes, and then you had mentioned the stalker.
Yeah.
And then he had taken you out the night before and ended up being your attacker, but you haven't said any details of the second assault.
Yeah. No. Okay. So, the second assault kind of like had some buildup, more or less. Like, I lived on the first floor of my barracks, so he figured out which window was mine, and he would come tap on the window, and it wouldn't be at like random parts of the night either. It would be for like either like 15 minutes at like 3 o'clock in the morning for no fucking reason, or like every other hour on the hour and I'm just like, I got to a point where I reported it to everyone on base. I told my command, I told the cops. The cops came, and where my barracks was in retrospect to where the cops on base are, this man saw the cop leave the gate, run back to his barracks, and fucking nothing ever happened because they do have security cameras, but they don't actually like record anything. So that was like just frustrating because it's just like I'm trying to do all these like things you're telling me to do, and like it's not working.
So
You know what I mean?
how long did this go on for, like the stalking in general?
About 2 months. And
Okay.
I had even got my mom got me one of those like vibration alarm things where like if it hears a vibration on the thing, it's like a loud chirping thing.
Yeah.
And it deterred him for like a week. So I was like, oh, cool, I got a week of sleep. And then he realized that it also sounded exactly like the fire alarm. So he went back to doing that. And I think I had about like 2 weeks straight of just that where I finally like had enough. And I describe it kind of in a way where I like, oh, it's kind of my fault, as in the aspect of I stuck my head out the window and was just kind of like, what the fuck is your problem? And I was met with, I think, a 4x4 or something of a base like thing. So like, and then I woke up the next day. I don't mean to have it like that, but like it was
Which,
I
by the way, that's not remotely your fault. I just
I
want
don't
to step in and say that because I think that when we talk about living on base specifically, there is a certain level of safety that I think should be expected. And
yeah.
I expected safety on base when I first got out of boot camp because, like, you've experienced this. When we're in boot camp, they make it seem like the Navy's your family. These are your brothers. These are your sisters. Base is supposed to be a safe space for you, right?
Mhm.
Never should a woman feel uncomfortable running on base at night. I don't think. I don't think
Yeah.
a woman should feel uncomfortable in her own living space. And same with men. This isn't just exclusive to women. I don't think anyone on base should feel uncomfortable in this what's supposed to be safe space. So sticking your head out the window to get
I
met with someone like beating the shit out of you, like that's 100% not okay. And that's also not even close to your fault. So anyway,
yeah.
I wanted to point that out because I'm like, no, girl, this is not your fault.
No, I just say it in the aspect of like tactical advantage wise. I'm like, I should have like
Yeah, but I also think you were in a place where when you don't feel safe, your body's not thinking about that, right? You're not thinking about like, how can I be the most tactically like, you're worried about your own safety, and you're at kind of like a heightened level of awareness where you just like, I don't know. I think there's like biological things to this that I don't know all of them. I know there is, but like I'm not a scientist.
Oh no.
But yeah, like I think at the end of the day, it's like your body does what your body thinks is right. And like later on, we think back and we're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, why did I do that?
No, I actually do think the most annoying part about my second attack is that like if I could fist fight this man on the street, I'd whoop the shit out of him. Just physics alone.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, Granny, I'm 5'9" and muscular. So like, I don't know.
He knocked you out, and then from there he assaulted you, like he sexually assaulted you, or what?
They had said that it looked like he had climbed in the window after getting a good blow to my head, and then like the assault had occurred, which was wild because I kind of remember fighting, but kind of don't. And like it's wild to think about how hard on the head that he actually hit me, because I'm like, I hate the fact that I have a brain injury now, because it's kind of like my brain's an etch a sketch, but like not the fun kind, And
so this is a thing that I think bothers me about stuff like this that happens in the military is like, it's not like there wasn't warning signs that this could potentially happen, like you did your best. And I remember distinctly when this stuff was happening to you. And I remember you telling me that like no one wanted to help you because of what had happened with your captain's mast. Like you were already seen as like this piece of shit. And so no one wanted to help you because of that, which is fucked up. And I remember being really upset about it because I'm like, what can I do? Like I wanted to do, but there's literally nothing I could do. But that shouldn't have mattered. But it happens so much that like when a person goes to captain's mast and they're seen as like the bad person, it's like nothing else matters. Like you could be beaten to death on the side of the road and people would just look at you like, oh, well, guess you shouldn't have fucked up and got a captain's mast. Like NJP is not supposed to be that big of a deal. It's non-judicial because it's supposed to stay within the military. It's supposed to not be like that thing that gets, because court-martial is public information. You can Google people's court-martial cases. If you're listening to this and you're ever bored, go Google court-martial cases because some of them are fucking wild. But yeah, like NJP, it's supposed to be like a, hey, we're going to keep this in-house. We're going to handle it at the lowest level possible. And we're going to move on with our life. And I know some people in the military who've had multiple NJPs.
Yeah.
And they're still kicking it at the top of the ranks. Some of them good people, some of them not so much. But, to treat someone like they're a piece of shit because you got in trouble, like that, just to me, that's not okay. So I guess what happened after that was, because someone obviously found you unconscious. Was it that you didn't show up to work the next day, or like how did they find you if you're in your room?
I had how do I put it, I had woken up to the barracks and my LPO in my office. Wow.
In your room. Yeah, I get it.
I'm like, not it. But they apparently tried to call me a bunch, and it was like 10:30, 11 by the time they were in my room, and I usually have like a 6:30 muster time, so it was 4 hours of unaccompanied like kind of stuff. So I think the wild part, which like I don't know how to take it, my LPO at the time was kind of like, with how much blood I saw, I kind of thought you killed yourself. And I'm like,
it was that bad?
What? Like, yeah, it was one of those.
Did you ever see it? The scene?
I saw a little, like I woke up to it and they did take pictures, but because they were still trying to investigate everything by the time I got out of the military, and it had been like almost a year and a half post everything, and like they had just gotten my rape kit. So I was like, listen, you can investigate, but like, I'm fucking done. I would like to build a bridge and get the fuck over it. And like, I feel like I tried to, at least still being in the military, but it was just one of those like, any guy in the like in a uniform that came near me, I just automatically got like stiff and like, and it was like even people I was friends with, knew and trusted, like even if they came up to me in uniform, that was still terrifying to me compared to like seeing them in their civilian clothes, which is a wild thing to think about too, because I'm like, that was everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So they found you in this pool of blood. I assume from there, obviously they sent you to the hospital. You had the rape kit done at the hospital. Was there any kind of investigation that started immediately? Was it just like a sexual assault thing, or was it just against him? And then I guess what happened with him, I guess, is my biggest question.
Well, oh man, that is a loaded question all by itself. No, just kidding. But so they did start their investigating process by like asking people that we both worked with, like, hey, how do these two interact with each other? Blah blah blah. And like, it got to a point where my friend had told me, and the question had pissed her off at the time, that do you think this is a high school crush gone awry? And like,
what? he literally beat you in the head. What does that have to do with anything?
It was just, I guess it was like the story he was spinning or something, but oh man, it made me like blackout rage, kind of mad, where I'm just like, I'm 23. I'm way the fuck out of high school. First of all, I don't care how old this kid is.
Well, and if you think that this would be something that's straightforward, right? Like, regardless of what the background is, someone assaulted you, like physically assaulted you. That should be a very cut and dry case.
It should. And it was more or less, it seemed to get convoluted with just like weird in-betweens of like, oh, she went to captain's mast, maybe she's not as trustworthy anymore. And it got so much to a mindfucker where I'm like, wait, like, did this actually happen? Or like, you know what I mean? When it just gets to a point where it gets repeated in your head so much, you're just kind of like,
you just want it to be over. So you're like, you start questioning yourself.
Yeah, no. And it was definitely not the vibe at the time, because 13 Reasons Why had just came out, and the main character's name was,
yeah
mine.
That show was very triggering for me, by the way. So
yeah,
I get it.
Honestly, it was one of those, like, everyone who I worked with was like actually worried about me too at the time, because like I had told them everything, and they're like, we wish we could help, like kind of how you said, like, wish you could help, but like only E3, E4, like you can't really do anything until you're like a chief, at least I feel like. I don't know, maybe first class.
Were there any higher ups? When I say higher ups, like E6 and above, any officers that were in your corner? Did you have anyone that was working to help you, that you felt at least?
Yeah, no, I would say, oh man, it sounds really no, it doesn't sound terrible. Fuck them. The one person that seemed to like really be concerned about my well-being, at least, was the legal officer at the time, who was also coincidentally processing all my paperwork for DRB, XOI, and Captain's Mast. So like, he would like actually call me up to his office to check in after everything had happened, which I was like, oh man, that feels a little bit better than, like, I think he was a new E7 at the time, who was just like, you're going to look back on this and you're going to laugh about this one day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
know about that one. That's it's not, but it's yeah, that's a little different than a look back and laugh.
Exactly. And I was just kind of, I feel like it was just because he was like, oh man, I don't know if his first name was like a Chad or a Bradley of sorts, but he had that kind of vibe, if you get my drift.
He had a Chad vibe.
Like, I don't know. It was just like,
funny.
Not all the brain cells are there, and he's trying to be helpful because he has kids, but he's also like, I'm a chief kind of thing.
Well, I think, and I don't know, I was never obviously an E7 in the Navy, but I think that they don't quite train the military in any level on how to deal with like trauma that people go through. And like, realistically, like, it is their job, but it isn't at the same time. Like, yeah, it's the medical people are supposed to be the ones, but like, let's be completely real here. Like, no one no one that I have met in the base that we were at was very well equipped to help people deal with trauma. The social workers at mental health really aren't.
Yeah.
The people in the military really aren't. And so it's like when you're dealing with that level of trauma, who do you really turn to?
Yeah. I think the only person on base at the time I was turning to was, I think she was like the regional sapper victim advocate. I love her, and she is the nicest tiny old lady, but she's not anywhere connected with the military. She just like is homies with them because she has to be. But like that was like the only person that I was like, wow, you actually like give a shit if I like don't kill myself or not. You know what I mean? Like as opposed to like even the mental health lady at the time who I was seeing was kind of like, are you sure this happened? And I'm like,
yeah. But like that's not your first, like that's not your job in mental health to ask someone, are you sure this happened? And then there's also physical evidence of what happened to you. So that's what I think what confuses me the most is the gaslighting when there is physical evidence that something happened. But you're not the first person to deal with this stuff. And like I haven't watched the I Am Vanessa Guillen documentary yet or anything, but I've experienced my own sexual assaults and I've talked to multiple people who have. And I think the common denominator with a lot of things is like the lack of support for a lot of people that deal with sexual assault, and then the gaslighting, because it seems like whoever the perpetrator is, they get very defensive and then they try to make the victim sound like the victim was crazy, and people believe the perpetrator, as wild as that is. Like, why?
I just saw it with Megan Thee Stallion, dude. I'm like, I don't understand how the fuck there's evidence. There's this, like, motherfucker just believes it. Like, if there's like a shred of evidence, just believe them.
Yeah.
Let the disproof come later. Fuck them. Like,
right.
You know
right. I mean? Well, yeah, I mean, we so strongly believe one side, and then the other side we're so strongly against. And I say we, meaning probably majority of people, because for me, I usually side with the victim because I know what it's like to be that person that's not believed, and it sucks. Because it's like, it's bad enough that you're already dealing with trauma, and then on top of that, everyone's telling you that you're lying or that they don't believe you. And it's like, it's no wonder why people take their lives in the military, because this happens a lot more than statistics show. You said like the 22, I think that realistically, I think there's more. I don't know statistics personally, but I think that there's probably.
No, it was even crazier to read. I read something the other day about like the higher probability of women veterans killing themselves because they're not getting proper adequate care post like fucked up shit happening to them, or any kind of situation like that, which is like so infuriating, because it's like women have been a part of the military for at least 20 years now. Like I know plenty of people that are out, but 20 years.
Still a demographic that thinks that women shouldn't serve in the military. I just actually I talked to a family member a few weeks back whose solution to military sexual trauma was, women just shouldn't join the military, then it wouldn't happen. And I'm like, no, how about instead of saying that women shouldn't join the military, why don't we talk about how not just men, because I'm sure there's women that sexually assault other women too. I'm not going to say that it's only men. And it's not just women that are getting sexually assaulted. Men get sexually assaulted too. So even if women didn't join the military, there's still a demographic out there that's being affected. Unfortunately, I mean, you're not going to hear the World War II vets and the Vietnam vets coming forward and talking about this, but I know it happens. And men aren't going to come forward as willingly and say, hey, a man raped me or a man sexually assaulted me, because that's a whole different, level of safety that they have to feel to admit that. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, to solve everything, it comes down to people just being decent human beings, but then believing victims and prosecuting the perpetrators. At a minimum, kick them the fuck out of the military. Like, did the guy that attacked you, did he get kicked out?
Neither one of them got kicked out, and they both got honorably discharged. So that was like, oh, go fuck myself. You know what I mean? Like, after I sorry, just to go back on the whole, like, it's wild on the like people getting assaulted in the military still, because it's like, didn't everyone get taught in kindergarten to keep your hands to your fucking self? Like,
Yes, but I also remember getting taught that like if a guy is like hitting me or being weird, that it's because he likes me, and that
that's true.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, no, I get that part too. Like, fundamentally, it is there. I just, fuck. The thing that was annoying is that after I had gotten out and everything, the second perpetrator had gone to, oh man, it's in Seattle, that joint base near Seattle.
JBLM.
Yeah, that one. He had ended up in the inpatient ward there, and like, I don't know how he got my number or how he called me, but it was one of those like, hey, could you forgive me? And I'm just like, I'm gonna hang up now. And like, that was the whole triggering process all by itself. But like, thank God I was in therapy at the time.
And this is when you were still in Washington.
Yeah, I was like about to move out of Washington at the time.
Okay.
I was like on my way out. I was good to go. And that was it, it was okay. I think the more re-triggering kind of thing happened when Vanessa Guillen disappeared in 2020, because I did the whole adding on to the story of letting other people know outside the military, like, this is way more common than you think it is. Like,
yeah, and I think what really was weird to me with the whole Vanessa Guillen thing is that it was very empowering for a lot of women, specifically when her story first came out, because it started the Me Too movement. But then there was this demographic that tried to crush us and say, no, 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 not that many women have been sexually assaulted. But then on top of that, and I don't know if you remember this, but there was a Facebook group, the I Am Vanessa Guillen. It's called something else now. But it was in the Facebook group, there was a bunch of women that were coming forward and sharing their stories for sometimes the first time in years. And there was this group of people who thought that it'd be a good idea to take those stories and share it with commands. So take it as an unrestricted report and share it with commands. And so women took their stories down, and women shut down again. And once again, we were silenced. And it wasn't even necessarily from like men. Some of this was other women saying, I feel it's my responsibility to take this as an unrestricted report. But this is what bothers me is that, yes, I get it. Like, there's a whole, like, if you hear a report it to someone, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of like the whole suicide thing, right? Like, if I go to someone and I'm active duty and I say, hey, you know what? Like, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I'm not going to go do anything. I'm kind of on the brink. And that person goes and immediately sends me to the ER. I'm never going to talk to that person again, because instead of asking me, what do you need and how can I support you? They took it upon themselves to go from 0 to 100. And this has never happened to me. And one of the reasons why I didn't really tell people my feelings, because I didn't want that to happen. But think about how many people aren't comfortable coming forward with their reports because stuff like this happens. Like, people take it upon themselves, like with you, to just go and take that power away from a victim who's already had their power taken away. Like, I think it's fucked up.
No, I completely agree. I feel like everyone's story is like kind of their own, and they should express it in whichever way they want to. I think with Vanessa Guillen, I was just getting so infuriated at the time, because I'm like, motherfucker, I've stayed like 12, 18 hours looking for one fucking tool, and you're telling me a whole person disappears? Like, go fuck yourself. Like,
right.
It shouldn't be that black and white. And so I shared my stuff and like kind of my story on Instagram, and it got way too much attention for my own. I was like, I guess it's okay, but I'm also like, I've never had this many people talk to me at once.
Yeah, it's a little stressful and stuff goes viral, right?
Yeah, no, and it was stressful, but it was weirder too, because like people were like, no shit, trying to find this man and where he lived now, and like post him getting out of the, and I'm like, I don't need I don't want to know where he lives. I would like him to stay the fuck away from me. And that's the end of that. And he had caught wind of the viral kind of stuff, and God, this is kind of one of those other like my story kind of getting taken away from me again, but I'm also kind of glad it happened because like at the time I was kind of afraid he was gonna come kill me. So I was like, proof on the internet that I don't want to die. Like it was a random number from this man who he had texted me like, oh, you should have like left the base in a body bag, blah, blah, blah. And like my partner at the time, she was like, fuck this. This man needs to get put on blast for like doing that kind of stuff. And like, so she posted it on my thing for me, which was like, I wasn't mad, but I was just kind of like, I just want to be left alone. Like, I'd rather prefer not all of these people start talking to me about this stuff again.
Right.
And it was weird. It pissed him off, but like the internet got weird on him back. So I was okay with it, you know? I don't know. Like they're like, this is where you live. This is your girlfriend. This is where you work. And I'm like, oh
The
man.
internet warriors. I think it feels a little like invasive when it's like it's already uncomfortable putting out something like that anyway. But I think like when we put out personal stuff to the public, like we do it with an intention. And I don't know if this is you, but like for me, I do it with an intention of like letting other people know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Especially like with this podcast, like, you know, I shared my sexual assault story on an episode, not to be like, hey, I want people to go and take action for me that I couldn't take. I want people to feel that they are not alone and know that like, hey, this is happening to more of us that haven't reported it. And if this has ever happened to you, this has happened to me too. So it's not just you, you know, and I don't know if that was your thought process with sharing your story, but
no, that 100% was because I was more or less like remembering being in the brute of everything happening, being like, this is the worst feeling ever. I would not wish this feeling on a single person I know, like not even the dude that attacked me, which says a lot. I don't know, but like it's wild just to like think about. I wanted to tell my story because I was so tired of like narrative getting pushed down my throat of what happened, because I'm like,
right,
there were two people there. There is like at the end of the day, I do think there is three sides to every story. So my side, his side, and like what actually happened. I feel like I track more on the what actually happened part because there was just so much like high school crush, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we're adults. I'm not.
right. No, I get it. And yeah, that's the shitty thing about like anything happening in the military. There's the chief side of the story too, right? There's like the whoever takes whatever evidence and creates their own interpretation of it. So, you know, it almost adds like a fourth layer to the story too. And it can be very disempowering for whoever's dealing with stuff. So so you obviously separated from the military. Did you have an honorable discharge?
Yeah, I got medically retired actually, which was cool. And I do have the honorable discharge. I got the what is it? They put me on a temporary retirement list, and I don't know if I've been moved off to permanent, but like, you know, whatever. It's still, it works.
How long have you been out now?
Oh God. I haven't done this math. I got out
what year did you separate?
That's so the end of 2019.
Okay.
So I've been out 4 years. Oh, wow.
Fuck. Oh wow. It is 2023. Odd. time doesn't compute in my head like that. So I get it.
No.
So do you feel safe at this point knowing that guy's still out there, that both of those men are still out there?
I don't really feel that safe, but like, oh man, it's probably not very Colorado of me, but I do have a gun because I live by I have a gun and I have a dog. So I'm like, if one doesn't work, the other one will. But like, it is nice living by myself now though. So I don't have to like be in the shitty versions of college dorms that they call the barracks. You know?
Yeah. And do you get support for your TBI, your PTSD? I mean, is the VA supporting you, or do you go elsewhere for that support?
Yeah, no, the VA kind of helps out with some of their stuff. It's like being in Colorado, there's so many like vets per capita that like you can have an appointment 1 month and your follow-up that might need to happen sooner rather than later is like 3 or 4 months away. So just enough time to forget about said appointment unless you like write that shit down. But no, the Denver Vet Center, they've had this like group. It's this like combat vet who goes out and takes vets to different like activities to do to get out of like the rut of everyday life and like explains more psychology things. And that's been probably the most helpful, but comedy has been it's it's like therapy on steroids. I don't know how else to put it, but
Yeah, I think these like the creatives for, creatives like you and I, like finding some kind of outlet that allows us to be creative, but also allows us to like, it's like therapy in a way. Like for me, the podcast, it's like creative, but it's also very therapeutic because like it gives
yeah.
me the opportunity every week, every other week to just like talk about these experiences and to like relate to someone. And so talk to us about like what made you decide to start doing comedy and
Yeah.
what's your vision with that? Like where do you plan to go with that, or is it just something fun?
Um, I really enjoy it right now. I don't know what 100% I'll be doing with it, but I did get headshots yesterday, so I feel like that's that much closer to like a Netflix special. Hit me up, Netflix. No,
I love it.
but it's honestly it's just been a way to like at least in the military for me, I felt like I was like silenced all the time. So now I get a mic and like even with my own podcast with my like post getting a brain injury, I kind of had to learn how to talk again. So like practicing making perfect with my own podcast kind of thing, even
Yeah.
though I'm still like trying to figure out the audio engineers to make sure it doesn't sound like dog shit. Oh man.
Outsource it, girl. That's what I do.
That's what I hear. I'm like, I need to afford that. But yeah, no, I've just been hitting a bunch of open mics. I actually have a few shows coming up in Denver, which is fun. But I think it's just the whole like making other people laugh and being relatable to stuff that like getting out of the military for me. I kind of did put myself in a box like, oh, I'm a veteran at I think 26 at the 26 at the time. And I was like, most people when they think veteran, they think like their grandma, their grandpa, like not fucking some random like, oh, she has purple hair. I doubt she was in the military, which is fun to fuck with people. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just being able to like talk freely and not have some dude be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's very powerful and symbolic. And there's a certain level of confidence that I feel it comes with doing stand-up. So I applaud you for that. Because if I was up on a stage trying to do comedy, I'd be like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm not funny.
Well, I think it was just I had taken like like not so many years. That's gonna sound super cocky, but like everyone telling me I'm the funny friend and just kind of like rolling with it more. And when I had like a kind of toxic breakup last year, I really leaned into it because like she gave me a lot of material, but whatever.
That's cool though. And I think if we can somehow take like our experiences in life and find a way to cope with it, whether that be laughing, some people cry and that's therapeutic, like some way to just deal, because sometimes like we know that we can't go back and change the past, and sometimes the past is extremely painful. So it's like, what do we do? And I love that you've taken something that is an outlet for you and you're like, you know what, this is my thing, I'm gonna roll with it. I don't know what it's gonna look like in the future, but this is helpful and this is healing for me right now. So that's really cool. So you have your comedy, you also have a few other things. Talk about your tie-dye, your podcast, anything else that you have going on.
Let's see, my tie-dye was fun. Was like a pandemic project gone way the fuck out of hand. No, I had just gotten too much tie-dye, like done too many tie-dye projects over quarantine, and I was like, I need to get some of this shit out of my house because like color is cool, but like I have too much of it and I get too many compliments, so I should just sell it. And I went on the selling path, but I just getting out of the military, like I I really empathize with the people that are like freshly out, because I like feel like it's like a weird, oh, we're told what to do, what to wear, where to show up and do every day, and now I just like get the fuck off. Like it's a weird transition.
It is. It's so weird. And I actually talked to a lady the other day who, and I don't know if this is like a live program yet, but a program that's being worked on that actually is like a mentorship type program. You know how like when you get into the military, you have your sponsor that's supposed to help
Yeah.
you through like transition into the command. So it's a program that is set for veterans. So when you're first transitioning out of active duty, you get paired with a sponsor who helps you through this
Yeah.
transition process into civilian life, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So we'll have to chat more about that
Yeah.
off
For sure.
air. But yeah, but no, I related so much to that because it's like you literally you go from like structure, like whether it feels like structure or not, you go from some kind of structure to all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I can leave a 300-mile radius
Exactly.
without having to ask 5 people in a chain of wait, I can do my nails and do my hair however the fuck. There's still days where I'm like, I can't dye my hair. And I'm like, wait a minute. You can dye your hair pink if you wanted to, and no one can tell you. Like it's weird. Like it is.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So I get it.
It was no, I went completely anti-military with my hair post it because I'm like, listen, I don't have to blend in with anything now, so I'm just gonna stick out like a sore thumb. And like when it was rainbow, it definitely did. Purple, not as much anymore, but that's okay.
I love your hair color, by the way.
I know I had to pay someone else to do it first because I was like too terrified to dye it getting out of the Navy. Like, I'm gonna break all my hair off. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I paid the nicest gay man way too much money. And it did not last that long. So I was like, I'm just gonna like do it myself.
Hey, well, it looks like it didn't break off, so good to go. So you have your tie-dye. It sounds like you said you give part of those proceeds to help veterans.
Yeah, it's between Wounded Warriors and Homes for Warriors. So they like help get veterans, like especially the ones that are like, because homeless veterans out in Colorado is pretty bad, but it's probably everywhere. I don't know. Haven't checked.
It is. I don't think it's really talked about. I know San Diego, it's pretty bad. Seattle has a hell of a homeless population. I can't tell you how many of them are veterans and how many of them are not, but
yeah. But I also do kind of think of like, if I were homeless, I would probably say I'm a better, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to be that kind of energy, but I'm also like, but they help get veterans into homes so that they're not like, especially before the winter time is when they do a lot, but they have Homes for Warriors, and there's one with service dogs. Oh fuck, I'm totally spacing on the name of it right now, and they're gonna
if you don't remember it, you can send me the names of all those organizations and I can post it in the show notes for anyone that wants to check that out, because I think there's a lot of organizations out there for vets and we don't know what they are. There's so many. I mean, I connected with someone the other day that has a nonprofit for people that have TBIs that I've been telling everyone I know with a TBI about, because I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Yeah, to tell you about it. But I actually did an episode with him. His name's Colby. And he's got that nonprofit. And then, one of the nonprofits that I support is the Headstrong Project.
I've seen that one before.
Yeah, really like that nonprofit. And then there's thousands of them, so it's like
and sometimes they're like specific to whatever area you're in, but I mostly just like wanted to start that to help fund more mental health awareness in the military, because like you probably get it just as much, but like I cried for days when I heard oh man, we both worked with him and he was an HT1, and that's all I will say about that. But it's just left and right. I hear someone like either someone I was deployed with, worked with, that's why I try and do my due diligence to reach out to people, but also I'm like, I got my own shit. I'm like, no, it sounds bad.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it's a fine balance. And like me, I'm a huge mental health advocate. And there's times when like I'll shut down myself because it's like I have to take care of me. And if I'm not taking care of me, I can't help other people. And so I get it. And I don't think it's selfish to do that. but to have resources where we can say, hey, like maybe I can't personally help right now, or I don't have the bandwidth to have this conversation, but here are these nonprofits, here are these resources, they can help you, they can talk to you, and pointing people in the right direction. And like in my show notes, I'll always have like the numbers and the resources, and from specific shows, from specific episodes, I'll post, the links for people to check out these nonprofits, and with the hope that like, here's this list of resources. And eventually I want to get to a point where I have like an actual list of resources, but that's really helpful. So yeah, if you think of what they are, just send them to me, and we'll make sure that they get put in the show notes when this releases. And and yeah, your podcast, that's just a funsies podcast, or
kind of a funsies one. I am actually just now reaping the benefits of getting my first like press pass application to a festival. So that's really fun. I started it kind of with the intention of just like, it was like really in the depth of quarantine. So like, I don't want to say like everyone else who started a podcast, but also I feel like that's when they all showed up. No, but I started it mostly as a way to like remember how to talk to people, because I felt like my brain just wasn't keeping up with conversations as much anymore. And I don't know if I've just seen too many TBI movies where I'm like, I just don't want to be like that guy. Like, he seems like a nice guy, but like life looks hard like that kind of thing. And so I just started to try and like talk to anyone who would come on the show at first. And I think my first episode, well, I hope it's okay, but I accidentally dosed my dad with some psychedelics, and
oops.
Thank God he went to Woodstock, because if not, it wouldn't have gone that great. But no,
your dad's a great guy. I've met him before.
Exactly. No, he's nice. The only other ones that I really like to like highlight on there is also an episode with another veteran and his wife who do they do like ayahuasca and DMT ceremonies for veterans so that they can help like process their trauma post everything. And it kind of just helps as like a rebalancing act for them, which is fun. But yeah, just as another resource. Sorry, it's still on the resource brain, but
it's all good. Yeah, we'll compile everything that we can, and we'll make sure to get in the show notes for people that want to check that out, because I know there is a demographic of people that are very into like the spiritual and the ayahuasca. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I find it very interesting. Obviously, probably not for people who are active duty, but but if you're a vet and you're not working for the federal government or a job that like, is completely against that type of stuff, I think exploring all avenues in a safe way, and going to like a retreat or something can be a safe way to explore these avenues, right? But I'm all about like, do what works for you,
and they do it more in kind of like a therapeutic aspect too, as in like you have your experience, but then you like go check in a little bit later, like, hey, it's been a week, how you feeling? Process it with me kind of thing, which I thought was phenomenal, because I'm like, I don't know, for therapies wise, I feel like if I'm talking to another veteran, I feel less fucked up. I don't know why, but
no, there's something about talking to other vets. It's like a community thing. Like, it's like we relate in some kind of way to each other that people that haven't been through the military don't quite understand. And it's not that I don't like to talk to people that haven't been in the military. They just don't, they don't quite understand the experience the same. So I get it.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm like, I love talking to normies, but also I like my fucked up friends. But
so Hannah, for everything you're doing, comedy, tie-dye, podcast, where can we find you? How can we support you?
Cool. Okay. So my Instagram, that I post a lot of my comedy stuff to, I'm still a little shy, so like bear with me on that. But it's Hannah Goes Here is my handle. And then for the Spacecast, it's Scarlet Begonia Spacecast. I'm on Anchor for the Spacecast. That's what I was gonna say. But yeah, no, and Etsy for the store.
Cool, sounds good. And then again, I'll grab those links from you. Make sure to get that in the show notes. Please make sure you go check out what Hannah's doing. Go support if you can. If you want to go check out some of her shows, if you are in Colorado, you're Denver, right? Denver, Colorado. Okay, yeah. Make sure you go check her out. And Hannah, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. The last thing that I ask all my guests is if there's any last words that you want to leave the audience with.
That's a great question. I would say in 2023 that happiness should be your main priority. And that's it.
Love it. Thank you again. Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. With your support, we are able to increase awareness of the mental health issues affecting service members and veterans today, with the goal of creating positive change. If you got value from this episode, please take 30 seconds to subscribe and share this episode within your own network. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.